G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War update for the 15th of January 2026. I'm your host, the author David Applegate. Now, yesterday I had audio issues, today hopefully I do not. But yesterday, despite the fact that I could hear myself on the outflow tests, apparently the stream did not, audio stream got corrupted somehow. And yes, gosh, thanks to Batty for pointing it out. Otherwise, I would have gone to bed without even knowing it. And boy, someone would have roasted me. And undeservedly so. It's obviously just a rare error, hopefully. Now, as I said, Captain Sky Shield, I don't know how many of you remember Zelensky's promise to be the Sky Shield of Europe. I haven't forgotten. He asked for hundreds of billions of dollars, remember? Anyhow, the missiles have yet again fallen. Zelensky's air defense network has failed. Now, of course, you're going to say, oh, but what about American patriots? No. It's, right. It's a complicated situation in Ukraine. Right. Ukraine is ultimately in the charge of its defense and where things go. Right. The advisors have advised many times, but with the limited resources and limited budget and escalating attacks, nobody, right? You saw, right, English Air Force, Battle of Britain, right? Ultimately, the only way to stop was to destroy the German Air Force. It wasn't to keep intercepting bombers. It was to stop them from coming in the first place. So, obviously, Zelensky wants escalation, right? But this idea that Zelensky could protect Europe, he cannot protect a warm cup of tea. I've been also, my comments are recently on Sir Two-Tier to Sir. Did I just assume his gender? Yes. My comments recently got me a Facebook ban. I was just raising awareness, Facebook. It was a joke. Jolly good. Now, we actually have a little bit of expansion of the Russian buffer zone. Now, we'll get to that later, but there are indications that Russia is bringing its war to an end. But first things first, they're pushing back into Kupiansk. But from the south this time, obviously, this is clearing the buffer zone, as I believe the operation has been referred to as the buffer zone. So some of this may actually go on silent on purpose because they don't want it. Though there is activity here, which is rare. There is activity all over the map. Only a bit of changes to the map, nothing substantial. We don't know if Russia wants Konsk or just to cut across here and secure the flanks. To stabilize the front, to secure it. Because if it's ad hoc and open fields, you want to control. Make sure that Ukrainians aren't sneaking in at night. This is moving slowly. No movement. Moving slowly up here as well, but no movement in here. However, Russia's taken half of Myriad. Well, the good half, by the looks of it. And the bear trap at the Provost rail station continues. Of course, we don't know where the border is, but it's clear that Russia wants this territory, although they've taken more in Noviprigad, moving slowly in other areas, although they are creeping up towards Tenerife and completing operations in Tulipol, though the Ukrainians hold on to the outskirts. It's brought Zarechny into range of Russian artillery. Now, Russian troops allegedly again on the road to Zaporozhye, where they have been stopped. Nobody knows, but they have allegedly engaged the Ukrainians, yet this is according to Russian news, because in Ukrainian news there's nothing about it. But there are many battles that aren't being reported. So we have Mykolaiv, Kryvyi, Dnipro, and Kharkiv, and Kiev. Russia has, if Russia wanted to, of course, there would be Omsk, one a day. How many? 200, 300, maybe less. Who knows? Maybe only take 20. But it'd be over. So, Russia's, however, not interested in full conquest. They are pressuring, not obliterating. There is quite a difference. But what we don't see, of course, is often telling. While Russia's dangerous escalation has been condemned, that is the that's the use of the Omsk missile, which they have been threatening to do, and I warned you that they would eventually do it if they don't get their way, or at least get 4 out of 10 of their points accepted by Ukraine by the end of the month. I believe Ukraine is running out of time before Russia launches its next round of Omsk missiles, targeting something more significant than an outdated drone works. They will hit something more significant. Although some Russian media did report it as a NATO base. No, it is not a NATO base. It was not a NATO base. It was used to repair F-16s, but primarily it was for drones. Now, yet again, we have a Ukrainian on charges of bribery, the third one this week. We have no mention of civilian casualties in Russia or any Ukrainian drone attack on Russia. Yet, if we go to the reports, Ukraine has attacked power facilities in Russia, leaving settlements without power. Meanwhile, Zelensky's complaining about attacks in extremely cold weather on energy sector as cruel. Zelensky, you try crying about it. All right. One of the reasons why Ukraine is failing is air defenses. And yesterday I showed you the Ukrainian response, a stupid buggy with a couple of missiles on it. Great if you are preparing to fight a Soviet tank swarm and you need cheap disposable assets to swarm those Soviet tanks and destroy them. But this ain't the Cold War. This is not the 1960s. There are not 10,000 T-34s lining up to storm Europe. This is the modern era, where weapon systems can be countered and easily countered with electronic warfare. So you have to be smart, right? Russia had developed the Zu-23-2 and Zu-23-4. These were originally to counter low-flying aircraft, then increased tracking for helicopters, and ultimately now, as you can see, they have been upgraded pretty much like the American Vulcan, only less rate of fire, but still, Russia does things on a budget, right? Russian weapons cost between 20 to 50% less than Americans. Yes, they're less effective, no doubt. But as you can see, quantity is its own quality. And quality of air defenses matters. And that, my friends, is where we get to the Vulcan. It achieves its quality by quantity of shells. Here they are testing different barrels and different models of the Zu-23 2 and 4. And they have narrowed it down to this little baby right here. A cheap 1960s truck and a cheap barrel-fed. This is a straight belt-fed model. The one I saw yesterday had this is the gunner. It's replaced through automation. You can still operate it manually if it runs out of power, but yeah, it's carrying an automated fire and control system. Driver just rocks up. There's a clutch or whatever. I think there's a clutch. It pops up, press down. You steer it. It's had the steering mechanism removed, but it's got a pop here somewhere. Is a feed mechanism into the gun. There's different models, however, and in fact, even here, right, they're still testing. Yeah, but Zu-23 actually refers to the weapon system itself, not the actual guns. Well, tests took place in Kuhuskin Yar, and of course people are going to say, "Ah, he speaks Russian. He must be the Putin." The standard carriage has been removed. These were towed arrays, but increasingly towed arrays on the battlefield is a danger. In the time they are now increasingly aware that if you set up a gun and fire, within seconds of firing, you are detected, right? So increasingly, the Russians have noted that America is doing with towed arrays, so Russia started doing away with towed arrays. It makes sense if their own field tests show them that these automated turrets set up all across the countryside are doing well, right? And they're constantly testing to improve them. But what they're finding, of course, is drones are increasingly targeting them. So, but with towed arrays, by the time they set up, the drones have passed. They're increasingly faster. So they are putting them on trucks. Of course, this is an army display model, not the real thing. But it's still pretty close. And yes, it is based on trucks that used to tow artillery or even towed Zu-23s. But increasingly they are automating. Now, yes, you might say Russia's technology is behind. They're using fourth generation chips, but they're using fourth generation chips that do not load software. One of your points of weakness and slowness in any system is memory, how long it takes to load a program. If you make a circuit board with the program integrated into the circuit, you have no loading. You turn it on because it only has to turn on, go, where is the drone? Bang! That is my job. It does not need to be intelligent. It does not need to have clicky appear and say, "G'day, everybody. I'm Mr. Bill Gates. I'm your assistant today." It does not need fancy bells and whistles, of course. But they do operate in packs. That makes sense because drones now come in packs. They don't launch them alone. Russia is not stupid. They've been increasing their number of drones, knowing that whatever they do successfully, others will repeat. But this is where we get to the interesting part of the news. And that is, lo and behold, there are signs of ending. Now, of course, there's also signs that Russia's deploying missiles. Ta-da! Another. Now, that could be an ONSK or an S-550. They are... or an eye scanner. I am about as literate on weapons. I shouldn't be, but What do we got? Defense Ministry. Well, soldier with a 12.5. That's a command unit as your radar. I would say this is. I would say that's the. I feel that's a Onsk. Yeah. Getting ready for its next mission. If it's highly visible, it's a warning. If we do not issue warnings. Oh yes, we do. Yes, this is the soft Russia for today. All right. So, despite all the warnings, despite all the posturing, now and again, everybody tells you who they are, and when they do, pay attention. Russian forces are talking about buffer zones, not taking more territory, not taking more cities. They're talking about buffer zones. So they are neutralized, and they also talk about neutralizing the enemy. Again, not talking about liberating more of. No, they're not going to stop advancing in some areas because they also want bargaining chips. But they won't say that part out loud. So yes, we don't know how much of Ukraine will be bitten off. We don't know what size this buffer zone is because it's been expanded, and they keep referring to the special military operation. 300 square kilometres in the first few weeks. That's averaging about 250. They're no longer measuring it in locales. They are not looking at the small towns that they've taken, most of which were already empty. Some of them obliterated a long time ago during the, I think it's called the war in Donbass, or by the Russians. But Russia's increased operations in the Kupiansk area, Konsk, and other areas. Now, if they're telling you that, right there, this is all to complete liberation. So we'll see. We'll see exactly what they want. So it appears that I'm wrong, that Russia does want Kupiansk. But again, it could be misdirection, because if they really wanted it, they would have really pushed and put more resources in compared to other areas. But there's a undercover operation in Russia that snared a British intelligence officer. Right, so, well, yes, that's right. We saw this one, the missile. The Russians are taking. We're just taking Putin's poodle for a walk. All right. So Viktor Orban has slammed the Brazilian, the $billion plan to rebuild Ukraine. Ukraine, of course, is demanding billions. Despite the fact that they already announced one package and Zelensky wanted more money, he said, I wanted the 50 billion. He's now getting 90 billion. So it's a loan package, of course, allegedly. So more money. And, of course, Viktor Orban's putting out that Ukrainians are actually demanding 800 billion, which is more than, that's a huge financial burden. Says no more. Stop digging into our pockets. You're trying to drag us into this conflict. Of course, Eurozone's manufacturing for this has declined. Though Russia is allegedly, turning its arsenal into high tech, it's still often relying on tried and true methods such as the rocket artillery, the cope cages. Now, some of them are doing quite well, mainly because, see, in front of those cope cages is a large electronic warfare package. Now, of course, it's a nice capture of a 122 going to say, hello! Knock, knock. Here's Johnny. Now, an offensive allegedly has been launched in the last 4 hours. So, Ukraine map will update, maybe. But as you can see, fighting continues. The offensives pretty much in eight settlements. Kovensky have been one of them. Advancing in the Zaporozhye region. This is expanding the security buffer zone. So they're not talking about, right? So they're talking about establishing a border, all right, a buffer zone, the Krispy Lyman area as well, and in Ukrainian formations on the Olovsk River. So they're securing their borders. How much on the other side they'll take of these stated areas, who knows? That's between Putin and Zelensky. But the S-550, I don't think it outclasses everything, but it definitely is way better than everything in Ukraine right now. There's a difference. Now we know right now they're testing a new Patriot. They're testing a new high-speed Patriot missile system. This is like the Balkan Wars of the early 19th century. It's the warm-up. It's the prelude. It's the measuring, the tactics and analysis, because it'll take years to retrain armies. And so once they've learned what they've learned, and Zelensky is no longer the useful aid, it is, oops, he is no longer useful. They'll wash the blood off the chair and say to some Taiwan, you have a seat at the table now. and the Taiwanese will go, where is the Zelensky? Who? No Zelensky here. But Taiwan, in the scale of usefulness, is top 5. The scale of usefulness of Ukraine, bottom 5. There's huge difference. So I think maybe Taiwan already has a seat at the table as part of the Taiwanese-Japanese trade alliance, which I don't know has been formalized in exactly what form, because South Korea is unstable thanks to the feminists. Oopsie, sorry YouTube. I'm only drawing awareness, YouTube. Man, I'm sick of... I got hit by the Facebook bots today, and I got hit by some weird bug yesterday with my audio disappearing. So, we have another... intensified. What happened? Where? It disappeared. It did. There were 3, and then... I'm not winding back. I saw what I saw. I saw a flash of update, and then it disappeared. All right, so Ukraine is coming to an end. I keep telling you this, I know, but you got to remember. Look how long it took to... it took 11 months to get to the end of World War One. World War Two was quicker only because they toppled the regime. World War III has been a dynamic war right now, ongoing, where they're now trying to topple the where the toppled or sort of cut the head off Venezuela. They have, of course, cutting off Venezuela cuts off oil revenue for China, China takes a huge cut of Russian and Venezuelan oil, but sells that oil and takes a cut, right? this is why the price of oil is so high, right? And why America is more and more trying to, I think it's like 58% of their oil is now domestic. I know I've heard higher numbers, but you got to include diesel. A lot of that comes from Canada, so it's all over. But a lot of your Canadian oil, this is the thing that's going on right now. So a lot of China and Russia sell oil at a discount, but they get it from Venezuela. China gets it from Russia cheap, Venezuela cheap. Now, Russia's doing itself a huge disservice by undermining the world market on oil. It skews the market, but Russia's making its money on the oil, not off oil, but on the gold trade. But still, you're undermining the market, right? Let market forces play out. And ultimately, right, the whole Russian plan to sell oil at a discount to prevent invasion of Russia didn't work, right? UK elements of the CIA, they're undermining Russia, and all because Europe spent its youth, all the boomers, misspent youth, all the drugs, the hippies, the laziness, all the protesters. Now, of course, European manufacturing is overpriced, underproductive, and overpriced due to all these taxes. So, yeah, so you're not producing enough, the quality isn't there, and worse, it costs more than it should. All undermined by China, and yet they're taking out their anger and frustrations on Russia. Why? Well, misplaced anger is feminism, right? They don't get their way, so they take it out on men and make up all these stories. Hopefully, the collapse in Ukraine will be sooner than later. The cutting off of the Ukrainians will be sooner than later. You cannot trust them. They've proven time and time again their only interest, love, loyalty is themselves. They are not interested in cooperatives or of any kind. Any deal you make with them will probably be ultimately worthless unless you have someone like Trump who's willing to send in the troops and say, well, you didn't keep your word. And, of course, on their way to Ukraine, they'll stop off at Greenland because, they need to do their warm-up exercises. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you to each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.